Bradda Head Lithium Ltd is a North America-focused lithium development group with a listing in 2021. Its shares are traded on AIM and the TSX, and I'm delighted to be joined by the chairman, Ian Stalkers. So, Ian, despite your name, is the focus primarily lithium, or are you exploring concurrently for tin and tantalum, or is the latter purely coincidental?
Your answer is the last one, Sarah. It's purely coincidental, only because lithium is generally associated with those minerals.
So tell us about the scale of the lithium opportunity. What do you have and where are you located?
You mentioned we're North American focused predominantly. In fact, it's in 3 states. 1 is Arizona in the USA, 2 is Nevada next door in the USA, and 3 is in the Pennsylvania area. Because one of the more interesting parts of our little company, Bradda Head, is that we have 3 different types of lithium mineralization. We cover lithium-in-clays, which we have in the Basin project in Arizona. We cover lithium-in-pegmatites, which is the more common and easy to extract material, also in Arizona, in a place called San Domingo. And we have lithium-in-brines, which we have in Nevada and in Pennsylvania. And they become quite an interesting facet of our overall project.
So is the breadth of the lithium opportunities what makes the company unique? I always get nervous when a company describes itself as unique, because unique to me means only.
No, I wouldn't say we're unique in the only sense, but when you have 3 different mineralization styles, as we have, what is a bonus is that some are in favour and some are not in favour. And so when you have a downturn, for example, in lithium-in-clays, it was really running well with the status from Thacker Pass being well known and money being granted supposedly from the Inflation Reduction Act that Mr. Biden passed earlier in his period as president. When that sort of falls out of favour a little bit with lithium prices coming down, etc., then it's nice to have these alternatives that you can go to where they're lower cost and easier to operate type projects.
Okay, and what appears to be nice is the most recent update. It appears that you've beaten your resource target of 2.5 million tonnes of lithium carbonate equivalent following the completion of your latest drilling programme in Arizona. But what does that mean in real terms for the company, for the investors, for the future of the company?
Look, every aspect that you've just asked about there, Sarah, is important. Of course it is. We have indeed beaten the target we set ourselves, and a target that had been agreed between ourselves and a company called Lithium Royalty Company, LRC. And the reason we're pleased to have beat it is because as a consequence of that agreement with LRC, there is a $3 million payment that comes into the treasury of Bradda Head. Now that has got significant benefits for not only ourselves but for the shareholders, because there's no further dilution required to raise any more money. And most juniors in the world we live in are always out with their little hands outstretched in the Oliver Twist way of saying, "Can I have some more, please, sir?" So we're fortunate in not having to do that, and it allows us to move in our other projects. But just sticking for a second or two on the lithium-in-clays, we have got over 2.5 million tonnes now at a very good grade. We increased the cut-off grade in actual fact when we were calculating this particular number. But what's important to note is that we could grow that even further, and probably will grow it even further, because we've only explored a portion of the land package that we have under our control in the Basin, what's what we call Basin, the Basin part of our Arizona lithium licenses. So we have got a strategic asset already of a decent size, more to come, and, the flavour will come back. It will be an important asset, that I have no doubt. It's just making sure you keep yourself ready to go and primed when the time comes.
So you mentioned LRC there, the Lithium Royalty Corporation. For those unfamiliar with your arrangement, who are they and what are the terms between the pair of you that you can tell us about?
They are a Toronto-based listed company that had a vision that lithium was going to be extremely important, which I think most of us still share, because even today there was an interesting press article out where it highlighted that 8 of the 10 largest countries that are in the electric vehicle market space, they've grown significantly. Only 2 haven't. And it'll be no surprise to know which 2 they are at the moment. But that will change. So they believed lithium for the future, and so do we. And so they come in right at the beginning of our lifestyle, if you like, or our life commencement when we raised the money first in the AIM market, as you mentioned, in 2021-22. And the agreement was that when we had certain milestones for lithium carbonate equivalent resources, they would pay a certain amount of money in order to extract a royalty further down the road. And we've already had a payment from them, and this will be the last payment at this moment in time of $3 million. So it's been a very nice partnership for us.
So $3 million, I was looking at your most recent accounts, cash and cash equivalents of about $1.6 billion US. Combined, is this a comfortable cushion for a company with ambitions such as yours, or concurrently are you searching for a partner to assist in your aspirations?
We're very comfortable with the cash in the bank, Sarah. And with my accent, it'll be no surprise that we're very, very careful with what we spend it on and where we keep it. So, when we don't need it, we put it into locked up interest-bearing accounts that we get a nice little return on. Fortunately, the market's positive for that at the moment. But you're constantly having to look around and see how you compare with your peer group and how you can make a step up in some of those peers. And so we're always looking and checking out. But as I mentioned earlier, we have other projects. For example, one of the things that's got a lot of attention in recent months has been what's called the lithium-in-oil brines, which is the residual brine that's left after the extraction of oil and gases from places like Texas and Pennsylvania, where we've got licenses. In the Texas one in particular, it's called the Smackover District. And in there, the very large oil company called Exxon have been investing significant amounts of money with different groups. One in particular is called Standard Lithium, where they are now demonstrating they can extract lithium from these oil brines via what's known as direct lithium extraction, DLE. And we just happen to have some very well-positioned licenses where we can be a noisy neighbour to some of these guys. And in Pennsylvania, there's also been a recent press release going out by companies such as Occidental and the Berkshire Hathaway people, where they've expressed an expectation that the oil brines from Pennsylvania will also be able to supply a significant amount of lithium to the US market. And so we're now getting attention on that, as well as the traditional brines. So up until now, the biggest supplier of lithium within the America setup, and remember, America does want its own lithium, has been Albemarle, who have been extracting lithium from their brines, just basically salt water with lithium present in it. And we've got two targets that we like, and two targets that are getting attention as well in Nevada. Wilson is one of them, and they are right now flavour of the month. So that gives us that added little attraction as a junior company, and spreads the risk when you're looking at extracting lithium in the marketplace. It is tough because, make no mistake, lithium market space is a little bit dowdy and etc. at the moment.
Before we talk about the work programme, I want to find out what's happening when you're not making any noise. The areas where there is no significant work taking place. Is the plan to dispose of those mineral exploration property interests? Because they could be minor liquidity events for you.
Indeed. And if not minor liquidity events, it stops us spending money on maintaining licenses perhaps we don't need. So constantly, again, Sarah, it's a review that goes on, and funnily enough, we're pretty close to that time. It's the annual event, and we are looking very carefully at the land package we do hold and who could we work with on it. And I mentioned those oil brines, and I think they will get attention. And I mentioned the other ones, which are the more traditional brines. They definitely have attention. I can tell you now that people are naturally talking to us about it, and it's no surprise because they're good little projects on their own. But we've never had the capacity. We're a small company. We've deliberately set our stall out to do one project at a time. This was the Basin project we've concentrated on in this last roundup. But with the money we're getting in, we will be doing some more work, and I'll talk about it in a minute, on the San Domingo pegmatite project. So we've not been able to spread our wings too far, and therefore getting someone in to help us with the oil brines and the traditional brines would be very beneficial for us.
So tell me about the low-hanging fruit then, because there's lots of people muttering about production was promised somewhere in 2025, but realistically, you and I haven't spoken about production yet, so is that way down the line?
No, it's not. I think any small junior company who is trying to make its mark and manage its own business would like to get into a cash flow situation as soon as practically possible. So with that in our minds, of course, we're practical engineers. That's the way we've been developed and brought up and trained, etc., etc. Our low-hanging fruit are what's known as the pegmatites, which is the traditional and the bulk of lithium supply throughout the world today. And we have pegmatites in Arizona in an area called San Domingo. We built up our license holding there, so we are the primary holder of the pegmatites in the pegmatite district. We have undertaken 2 preliminary drilling campaigns, the first undertaken there since the 1950s, because traditionally these areas were mined for lithium in the form of spodumene from the pegmatites, but small scale. But we've started work, we are planning again to start work there again, probably in the next couple of months. All things being equal, permitting is, I wouldn't say in place, but it's well advanced, and we're hoping that we'll get permission fairly soon. And of course that $3 million that we go back to, the chunk of that will be reserved for those pegmatites. The work that we've done previously has highlighted that by gravity, which is a very simple process, fortunately for us, because we're not the brightest in the room, but gravity works very well, and we can produce a lithium concentrate based on the samples that we've seen at the moment, and they're not necessarily 100% representative, but we can produce a lithium concentrate running at 6% spodumene, which is the sellable product, still selling for over $1,000 a tonne of LC6, as it's called, and we can produce that at a cost much below that. And of course, these days when you start small scale in the USA, a lot of the plant that you have to hire, for example, the crushing and screening plant, is in fact available for hire rather than purchase. And the gravity plant too, these days are containerized. So it's a nice simple little process. And so the potential for the end of 2025, let's not give unreasonable expectations, in early 26 is still there. And that's what we're going to be pushing on with this next drilling program, to try and identify a big enough resource to handle. We've got indications of lithium in the spodumene. We've got some great indications. In fact, we had one of the best intersections ever around about 18 months ago. But it takes time to understand the resource fully, but we're getting there, and I think we will be in a position to keep moving in the next few months.
So, Ian, I'm just trying to visualise your portfolio, because we've mentioned lots of different elements there. Let me just quote a recent tweet from the company, which was, Bradda tripled the resource last year, and you're optimistic you may achieve something similar with the conclusion of the 2024 programme. Which resource have you tripled? Is that the one that you're going to continue to expand?
We have tripled the lithium-in-clay resource, which is the Basin area. And yes, we will continue to work in that. But the one we're keen to get moving on relatively quickly is the San Domingo pegmatites, because that's the one that I think we can get closer to production in a shorter time frame.
Very good indeed. Now, I'm just wondering, it seems as though things are working at pace, but what isn't happening at pace is a swift search for a chief executive. You've been without one since last August. However, you've got yourself as chair, you've got entrepreneur Jim Mellon on the board as well. So how is it working from a corporate structure point of view?
Well, we were very fortunate in that we recruited a chief operating officer roughly about 18 months ago, about 18 months ago. He is a Tucson-based, so he's an Arizonian, has a much more acceptable accent for that neck of the woods than mine, and he's done an absolutely fantastic job. He is extremely experienced, good, safe pair of hands, quality individual himself, and so he's picked up a lot of the operational work that was needed to be done on all our projects in that part of the USA. And that's allowed me, if you like, to concentrate more in some of the other aspects, such as our conversation today, and marketing the company in general, as well as looking for funding and opportunities. So we're okay at the moment, and the market's still not too spicy. It's still pretty dull and miserable. So we're not one for spending a large overhead and blowing money in a corporate overhead. We're keeping it as tight as we can, Sarah. So the money we do get goes in the ground, which is where it should go.
Now, one investor has both complimented and criticised the company, saying, I think the company is a good mineral explorer. I'm just not convinced they have a good strategy to capitalise on it. So what is the strategy to capitalise, Ian?
Well, hopefully I've been clear in this interview, Sarah. We've got a strategic resource in the lithium-in-clays. but that will take a longer period of time to come into production. We have certainly a huge exploration upside in the lithium in the spodumene, the hard rock. We'll be back there in the second half of this year, which is only 2 or 3 days away anyway, at the start of it. And I hope that we can bring that into closer to production and get a cash flow. So we're pretty clear on what we want to do. And the other ones, which are the oil brines and the traditional brines, well, if with the sniffs that we have turn into a little bit more than just people kicking the tires, then we may well have some opportunities there also to realise value for all shareholders and ourselves in the company. So I think we're pretty clear on what we want to do. I'm happy with the first compliment. We can forget the second part.
So the final question will allow you to repeat more or less what you just said to me. Why should investors put Bradda Head Lithium on their watch lists?
Look, lithium is a necessary element in today's electrification going forward. If we believe that we have to have a much cleaner environment, and everyone will make their own minds about that, then electric vehicles are part of it, as are battery storage, etc., etc., etc. You need lithium. America in particular, and it's worth just emphasising this as we get to the end of the conversations here, America wants its own lithium. There's plenty in Canada, there's plenty in South America, but there's very little other than Albemarle really producing lithium at the moment in America. And Albemarle's resource is diminishing as we speak, day by day, month by month, etc., etc. They would like more lithium to produce. We are ready, providing we get the drill assay results we're hoping for, to be one of those players who can fill that American demand. So I would recommend people coming in.
Ian Stalker of Bradda Head Lithium, thank you very much indeed for joining us today.